Formula One has completed their first race of the season, and it was absolutely chaotic.
I'm incredibly excited to be watching Formula One this year. It's our 75th season. We got 6 rookies on the grid, kind of 5, depends on if you count Liam Lawson or not. But it was an absolutely chaotic race in Australia. We had, I believe, 5 crashes in the end, 4 of those being rookies, and believe it or not Ollie Bearman. Let's get talking.
Talking about Ollie Bearman first of the rookies, he had a terrible free practice. He crashed in free practice 1, he crashed in free practice 3. He couldn't participate in free practice 2 because they were repairing the car, but he ended up salvaging his weekend. Actually couldn't even qualify because of gearbox damage. But best part for him is he finished 14th. He was the last of the cars to finish, but he actually finished ahead of 4 rookies.
You know, I gotta say, I'm glad Ollie was able to get back on his feet. He's at least got one good race under his belt. I know he's raced before in F1 for Ferrari, scoring a couple points, but it was kind of, you know, in the F1 equivalent of garbage time. So I'm at least glad he got some experience on a really rough track. And we got to see how he's going to work for Haas in the future. Honestly, I was shocked at how far behind Esteban Ocon was. So it may be the case that they're doing the same as, I believe 2021 was the year with Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin, where if you actually read Gunther Steiner's book, he explains that they literally did not develop that car at all. They did not add any upgrades or anything. They focused everything on the next year's car, and I think that might be what they do here this year.
Next, we got to talk about Isaac Hadjar, the Racing Bulls rookie. So, unfortunately, he spun out in the formation lap, which was really disappointing to see. He was understandably very upset after crashing out of the race. He wasn't able to complete any racing laps. Wore his helmet all the way to the team hospitality, but nice moment to see Anthony Hamilton, who's Lewis Hamilton's father, you know, put his arm around his shoulder and said, "Hey kid, you got a long career ahead of you and don't let this hold you back."
So Isaac Hadjar, of course, you know, he had a decent qualifying. He made it into Q2. He almost made it into Q3 with his teammate Yuki Tsunoda, who really had an amazing weekend up until the very end. You know, disappointing race for Hadjar, of course, but I think he's got some potential in him. You know, he did pretty well in the qualifying. I think Racing Bulls have really a way better car than any of us could have ever expected. I mean, Yuki Tsunoda was 5th for almost the entire race, which is incredible. And I know it's wet conditions, but you know, what are you gonna do? I mean, I'm excited to see how this team pans out, and you know, we'll wish the best for Hadjar.
On to Gabriel Bortoleto. He was called a B-rate driver by Helmut Marko, and he's not too confident about what his performance is going to be like in the Kick Sauber. Interestingly enough, though, he was the only rookie in this session to out-qualify his teammate, Nico Hülkenberg, too. Very experienced driver. So it'll be interesting to see how the Kick Sauber can go from here. They seem to have a decent car. Nico Hülkenberg ended up scoring points in the end. Unfortunately, Bortoleto crashed in the wet conditions. One of the 6 crashes on the day. But he did pretty well. He made it into Q2. He started 15th. Made it decently far into the race and ended up just kind of spinning out. So we'll have to see where he goes from here.
So, you know, I gotta say that it's really exciting to have a Brazilian back in Formula One. Bortoleto is kind of considered Fernando Alonso's protege. He signed with Fernando Alonso's management team in 2022. He's the reigning Formula 2 champion. He raced with Invicta Racing last year. So he's got a really good pedigree. I'm kind of disappointed in Helmut Marko being so low on him. You know, he outperformed his teammate. He was the only rookie who outperformed his teammate this year. He really seemed like he knew how to take control of this car in the wet conditions, but unfortunately he did not end up finishing the race. So, but it does feel like he's got a fire under him. You know, competing with Nico Hülkenberg all season is not going to be easy. He's an incredibly experienced driver. He's hungry. And the Kick-Sauber is looking like a bit of a dark horse midfielder. You know, being able to score points in Australia, not something we expected. I think we all expected Sauber to be kind of a backmarker team. So we'll have to see where they go from here.
So we're on to Jack Doohan for Alpine. He didn't have a great weekend. He qualified 14th. His qualifying time was a 1:16.8, which was actually a second slower than Pierre Gasly's time. Pierre Gasly ended up posting a 1:15.9. So he did make it into Q2, though. He did outqualify Bortoleto, though I would say the Alpine is likely a more competitive car. So unfortunately, in the race, he actually ended up crashing in the first lap of the race. So that ended up triggering a safety car, surprisingly. I think a lot of people thought the race might have been red flagged after that for a little while, but Doohan, another person who getting a lot of criticism from Helmut Marko, and Helmut Marko actually said, hey, I think this guy's not even going to last a full season. Now, that's interesting to me, because who's going to take the drive at Alpine? You know, they look pretty good in this race, but I'm not sold on them. And I don't know, you know, is Sergio Perez going to come back onto the grid? I'm sure he wants to. Will we see Daniel Ricciardo's fifth unretirement after Jack Doohan fizzles out? I don't know. It's kind of too early to see.
You know, in my talking head video there, I failed to mention that Franco Colapinto is actually the current reserve driver for Alpine. He had a pretty great season in F1 last year with Williams, scoring 5 points in 9 races. A lot of people were really impressed with his performance. A lot of people think he could have done even better than he did, and you know, he had a couple bad beats. But let's just say Jack Doohan's got a lot of competition right behind him, and Flavio Briatore has said that, hey man, we're not afraid to switch around this driver lineup if you can't get it together. So I gotta say it's pretty disappointing that they're not being a little bit more encouraging to him in the early goings, but hey, the results don't lie. The man crashed on the first lap. It was bad conditions, but you got to do better than that in F1. These are the 20 best drivers in the world. Got to do better.
I'm just going to say it. Liam Lawson is not where you want him to be right now. Qualified 17th, obviously way behind his teammate, but what are you going to do? It's Max Verstappen. The thing I'm really watching this season is Yuki Tsunoda versus Liam Lawson. A lot of people were really disappointed that Liam Lawson got the drive at Red Bull over Yuki Tsunoda, who has a lot of experience, and he's had some pretty good drives over his career so far. And I've already talked about it before. Today was no different. He was pretty much set up for a 5th place finish. Some safety car shenanigans ended up getting in the way, but it's compounded by the fact that Liam Lawson really had a terrible day. Terrible weekend, I should say. He qualified 17th, out in Q3. You know, a lot of people are kind of looking at him to hopefully battle with Kimi Antonelli at Mercedes, but clearly that's not going to happen right now. And unfortunately, he was another one of the rookies that crashed during the race. It was actually right after a safety car that I believe was caused by Bortoleto crashing first. It was kind of in the middle of the race, but it was, you know, during safety car conditions. You just can't do that. Yeah.
You know, it's hard not to think about the troubled past of Verstappen's previous teammates, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, and Daniel Ricciardo, and of course, most recently, Sergio Perez. You know, all of them kind of dealt with psychological issues, being second fiddle to Max Verstappen. Definitely was the most extreme of Sergio Perez. He had a good first season, ended up winning in Monaco and a few other races, but after that, he really fell off a cliff, and he was just absolutely terrible last season. It's obviously why they had to get him out of there, but I mean, a lot of people thought the next in line was Yuki Tsunoda. I already talked about that, but Liam Lawson not looking like the right choice after one race. Obviously, it's too early to tell. We'll see if he can bring it back in China. But man, qualifying 18th without any really obvious problems, and of course binning it during a safety car. At least it wasn't on the first turn like Jack Doohan, but certainly a very, very disappointing race for Lawson. We'll have to see if he can prove that he deserves his seat.
Last driver we're going to talk about today is Kimi Antonelli. So he ended up qualifying 15th, first out of Q1, or I guess you would say last out of Q1. Wasn't really his fault though. He was having some sort of mechanical issue with the floor of the car. There is actually a clip of him going around one of the longer corners where his floor is scraping the tarmac the entire time. A lot of sparks flying off, like when we saw the porpoising issues at the beginning of this hybrid era. So there's clearly some sort of mechanical issue going on. That's what Crofty and Brundle were saying on the broadcast. So interestingly enough, though, he ended up being able to cope really well with the wet conditions and made his way all the way to fourth place at the end. So far and away the best rookie on the grid this weekend. Of course, ends up scoring 12 points. He's right behind his teammate George Russell as well. Russell had a very quiet podium third place finish. So really excited to see what he can do. You know, a lot of people were saying he was, you know, a prodigy. He's clearly an incredible driver, and I don't think anybody would be surprised if he finishes with the most points at the end of the year. Now, obviously, a lot of that is due to the car. He's driving the best car out of the rookies, arguably. Maybe Liam Lawson is competing with him in that, but clearly Liam Lawson does not have the skill, as we talked about before. So I'm excited to see what he can do in the Mercedes. Really happy for him. Did a great job.
You know, there's not much to say about Kimi in this video that I didn't already say. You know, he had a fantastic drive. I think I said he qualified 15th. He was actually 16th. Climbed all the way up to P4. Obviously, he's got an incredible car, but the kid is talented. And it's going to be really interesting to see if he can compete with George Russell. I'm excited for China just because I really want to see what he can do with a full qualifying. I think my prediction is there's no way that he doesn't get into Q3 at China. This Mercedes car rather looks posed to do really well in that circuit. So we'll have to see. I'm incredibly excited for it though. I think it's going to be a great race. All the rookies are so much fun this year. When was the last time you ever had 6 rookies in Formula One? I don't even know if that's ever happened before. Gotta look that up later. Should probably do that when I'm not recording a voiceover for the video. But yeah. Just wanted to quickly show you guys the rookie standings as they are after Australia. Only point scorer so far is Kimi Antonelli. I'm sure that's going to change before the end of the season, but he is my driver of the weekend. He had a fantastic race, not a great qualifying, but obviously made up for it. And as I talked about previously, Qualifying was likely due to a mechanical issue. Everyone else, pretty disappointing. Only other rookie to finish was Ollie Behrman, and of course, he finished last of the cars that did finish. So we'll have to see if these guys can improve in the future.